Sam Evans with her speech, The Amazing Brain. The Amazing Brain, Sam Evans.
Hello everybody. Tonight I want to speak about the amazing human brain because I believe it's an amazing phenomenon and most of us just take it for granted and don't really give it much time to consider. So tonight I want to touch on firstly just a brief structure of the brain. I want to discuss things such as the capacity of what our brain can store relatively. And I also want to touch on dementia, if it's a normal part of ageing. Are we actually able to learn anything we set our minds to, or do we need to be born with a natural ability? And yeah, that's about pretty much all the things I want to cover. And also, just briefly, memory. I nearly forgot. Firstly, we have, the brain is divided into 4 lobes. So the occipital lobe, that's dedicated entirely to vision. So if we get a blow to the head, for instance, in that part, our vision can be affected. We have the temporal lobe, which controls auditory and visual memories, language, hearing. We have the frontal lobe, that controls attention, abstract thinking, behaviour, problem-solving tasks, and the parietal lobe, which is sensory systems such as pain, temperature and touch, etc. So the human brain, it weighs about 1.5 kilos, and male brains are 100 grams heavier than females. But before you all start to gloat, this has no correlation whatsoever between increased intelligence or increased cognitive functioning. And there's also 2 hemispheres in the brain, there's the left and right, and the right side actually controls the left part of the body, and the left side controls the right side of the body. And in order for the brain to function, it needs carbohydrates. It cannot derive energy, or it can't use the energy from broken down fat cells. So if we all go on the Atkins diet and reduce our carbohydrates intake, we can actually pass out because our brain can only use energy from carbohydrates.
So sorry, I mean, you have to use your computer.
That's all right.
So select the brightness layer if you want.
Oh, that's all right.
Sam, would you like me to come up and press the button so you can do it?
No, it's okay, thank you. Alright, so in terms of what happens when we're asleep, our brain is very, very busy doing all the things that we don't think about doing, and it does all this so that we don't wake up dead. Alright, so what's the relative storage capacity of our brain? Our brain has 100 billion neurons, and each of these neurons can connect to 1,000 synapses. So this equals 100 trillion data points. So this is all capable of data storage. What this equals in relative terms is 100 of these. So we can all remember 100 terabytes of information. So if none of you can remember the last movie you watched, I don't believe you. Okay, I'm just going to touch on optical illusions. Has anyone ever seen The Spinning Girl before? Yes. This one's going a bit slow. So, actually I'll leave that one on. The spinning girl, it's actually an optical illusion. For some people it might be spinning to the right, for some it might be spinning to the left. You can see it going to the right. And can some people see it going to the left?
Yes, now I can.
Yeah, for some people it will just continuously switch. Now this used to be used by HR consultants because they believed that it was due to left brain, right brain domination. And in actual fact, that's a 2D image, and what our brain is trying to do is trying to create space behind the image to make it 3D. And so our brain can switch between which side it sees the space, so that is why it will sometimes flip spaces. So I can demonstrate this further. Who can see an old woman in this picture? You can see a young woman. So you can probably get your brain to split between seeing an old woman and a young woman. With the old woman, that's her nose, and with the young woman, that's her chin. This is another famous example. You can see either an old man, or you can see a young man riding on a horse. And again, you might be able to see 2 elderly people, or you might be able to see guitar, and someone else. So yeah, our brain's quite amazing with the way you can see different perspectives. So that just explains more about what the brain is doing, because you usually exclusive perceptual states. Alright, have you ever heard people say that humans only use 10% of their brain, and that we have a lot more intelligence to tap into? This is actually an urban legend, because I think if any of you tried to chop a bit of your brain off, I don't think it would function in the same way that it did previously. So even when we're asleep, our brain is still 45% active, and if we want to tap into a higher level of intelligence, we actually have to get off our butts and study and produce more brain matter that way. So this gets on to the next topic of, are we all capable of learning anything we want? So for instance, can a rocket scientist become a ballet dancer? Well, the answer is yes. We don't have to be born with a certain talent. We're able to do whatever we want. We're all capable of continuing to create grey matter, no matter what age we are. Even if we're frail and 90 years old in bed, we can still produce grey matter. So for example, I'm an accountant, and I've just learned how to play the drums recently, and when I first started playing, had no coordination whatsoever. My hands and legs going at the same time, and it was a calamity. And now I've learned to do it without thinking, because I've created that grey matter. Okay, so can we all improve our memory? Yes, we can. There is an Australian memory champion, Tansel Valley, and he had the laziest memory ever. And he learned to have the Australia's best memory, and he created this book called The Yellow Elephant. So in The Yellow Elephant, it explains how he's able to remember a whole deck of cards. What he does is he creates a story for every single image he sees, and he can remember the whole 52 cards. By example, he would get the queen, and he would say, the loving queen went with Jack and his spades. With their spades, they dug 8 holes and planted 4 pairs of clovers. So that works for him, and that is what he says to do in this book. But I think for me, I'd struggle just to remember the story. Okay, so lastly, I just want to touch on dementia. So dementia is not a normal part of ageing. We're not meant to get dementia, so dementia does not need to be our fate. So ways to prevent dementia is to stimulate your brain, not just keeping on working, it's actually to challenge our brain by taking up a musical instrument, learning how to dance, learning a new language or something, because that actually challenges our brain. So there's a whole list of things, of course, Toastmasters, that will help us keep healthy. So, to sum it all up, we explained about the brain, the storage capacity, there's a big storage capacity there, and we can all keep our brain really healthy by eating enough carbohydrates and challenging our brain and trying to keep our brain active and healthy, because if you don't use it, you lose it. So thank you.